on green and blue bonds. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Kuganesh. I will stop screen sharing on my end, and Kuganesh, you can feel.
Yeah, hello everyone. Hello everyone. Greetings from Colombo, and thank you, Boja, for the space. And it's indeed a pleasure to address the AFIFORUM 2022. And it would have been a great been a physical event, but hopefully we can meet in person in 2023. And without taking much time, I think I would take you all to the presentation, and let me share the presentation. Yeah. So I have prepared few slides to bring about my ground level experience on the green bond and certain nitty-gritties from my perspective. The presentation spells about on these contentions. So the first slide is about the green bond. Go down the first slide, please. So what is a green bond? It's an instrument used to raise money and apply such proceeds exclusively for clear environmental friendly projects. And the next slide, please, Boja. So the green bond market is growing exponentially in recent years, and with the COVID-19 developments, green and social bonds playing a fundamental role for the recovery of economies. Last year, green bond issuance was about $500 billion, and it's expected to surpass $1 trillion in this year, and it will go to $5 trillion as well in 2025 by Climate Action Initiative. So we can see immense potential in this spectrum. As per the statistics, the asset under management is about $160 trillion, but for the sustainable purposes, it's only about 20% of such has been allocated. So we can see a paradigm shift from the conventional bonds to the green bonds in the future. So there's an increase in demand for the sustainable growth, and development in such resources are by definition destined for projects that improve the social and society and the environment. The exponential growth we see because of the more disciplined framework that adopted for green bonds, I would say, unlike the sustainability linked bonds, where there are no restrictions on how an issuer can use the money, and reducing the risk of the borrowers greenwashing their borrowings. So it will not be the case for green bond, I would say. And these are the potential investors that I would say in the key investors, and these are the investors at the same time. Sometimes they would be the issuers as well. And on the next slide, there are few benefits that I would like to highlight from issuing a green bond from the issuer's perspective, where the first thing is the pricing benefit. In theory, green and traditional bonds from the same issuer for the same tenor with the same coupon will have the same yield because it holds the same equal credit risk. But that's not always been the case, because we see there's the green bond buyers specifically want to buy green bonds, so that it creates a demand, and everything else being equal, that makes the green bond slightly cheaper for the issuer. That's called a green yield, because where the investors are being required to pay more for green debt, reflected in lower borrowing cost for the issuer. And also the issuer get mileage from the issuance, and that would be treated as part of the CSR activities as well. And also the issuer would get more investors as part of the green bond issuance on board. And let me spell out our story of participation in the green bond issuance in early 2020. So Pan Asia Bank is a pioneer in the green business sphere. with a diversified green loan portfolio, and the bank has a good amount of clientele, and we have a very good geographical presence in the island and caters to all segments of the clients. And for this purpose, we have partnered with Symbiotics on this green bond, and we have commenced the discussion in early part of 2020. This is right after the AFIFORUM 2020. And we were very positive about this proposal and grabbed it with both our hands. Since the bank is having a better framework and the systems were in place to make sure the proceeds were directed towards eligible green projects. And the bank has a clear framework on disbursing funds to eligible green projects, as we have an established channel of green lending through dedicated product lines. Hence, it's a matter of bringing the pieces into one place so that we meet the requirement to go for the green bond. In terms of the challenges, on the next slide, we had to deal with two challenges in the process of finalizing the green bond. Impact reporting is one of the important aspects of the green bond principle that we need to comply with. So one challenge we had was to identify and finalize the reporting metrics and ascertain the proper SDG goals that we need to address on that particular loan. So we have been incorporating wide range of new green loans to our product itself, and most of the time these loans address more than one SDG goals at the same time. So we have ironed out these concerns within a very short period of time. We have identified the areas that are practically feasible for the bank to gather the information that are relevant for a proper reporting, impact reporting is being made. And we wanted to have the quantifiable indicators as far as possible for proper reporting. Therefore, we have classified the available quantifiable indicators for each green lending that we have. And the greenhouse gas was the primary indicator that, and we always looked at gathering carbon footprint at all times. And the other indicators are like the energy savings, water savings, crop productivity, and livestock productivity. And another tight spot that we dealt with is on the next slide is collecting the baseline information, as it always been a tough task for certain products. As you aware, lack of availability of baseline information will kick you out of approaching certain products. So we keeping that in mind, we've been addressing it very prudentially, and what we did was we have interviewed where possible the farmers to gather baseline data and derive the required information for agricultural purpose of lending, and for some we have carried out surveys to find out the information, and for some we used industry accepted labels, certification, and research purpose, and it worked well in our case. On the next slide, these are few prerequisites that need to be addressed prior raising funds through green bond. The green bond principle is the utmost importance, and we shall look at on the next slide. And the second party opinion give confidence to the investor that the money is correctly deployed and will reach toward desired purposes, and for the funds to manage properly, thereby ruling out the doubts of greenwashing. While the rest of the features are common for the other bonds as well, so I'm not going to talk about those, and we'll move on to the next slide. So we wanted to ensure that the bank is complied with all those green bond principle from use of proceeds to reporting. And on the next slide, I have shared the SDGs that are addressed through each category of the loans that we have. So we have deployed funds to different sectors, like the key sectors like clean transportation, where the carbon emissions is much high, and renewable energy efficiency, agriculture, and land use. So these are the main categories that the bank has intended and directed funds towards, so that the quantifiable can be easily tracked and identify the impact created. And the carbon emissions, as I said earlier, in Sri Lanka is very much high, because the vehicle population in Sri Lanka estimate to be over 25,000 kilotons of carbon emissions. So our key lending consists of loans to hybrid and electric cars, since the greenhouse gas will exponentially reduce by using these type of vehicles. And for renewable energy, the impact is amount of the clean energy generated, and as far as the contribution of clean energy increases, the need for thermal power gets reduced. And now it's the need of as the oil has been trading above 120 per barrel. And also the SDGs that we address through renewable energies more than the other categories, as you can clearly say. And agriculture is a massive area in Sri Lanka and certain part of the other South Asian countries as well. So we can introduce great amount of green initiatives in this spectrum. So the bank also identified these and lend loans toward agriculture purpose, and certain granular level farmers has been using the conventional method of harvesting. So there's immense potential for us to introduce green initiatives in this area. And energy efficiency, of course, we can use in any type of lending. Everything, almost everything, you can use the energy efficiency. So it's a matter of finding out what are the specific lending. And to move on to the next slide, the money should be invested to the right project, which gives us desired results. And you need to make sure that your business does not run at the expense of the environment. So having said that, we have established and deployed the social environmental management systems some time back to ensure the money you lend do not harm or damages the society and the environment, effectively manage the social and environmental risk. And identifying innovative projects would give you competitive advantage over the peers. So that's on the next slide. And you need to choose the good projects and out of the available innovative ideas. So the process of evaluation and the selection entails the disclosure of sustainability objectives. The frameworks set to determine eligible green projects and the policies in place to ascertain the risk factors associated. Our green lending unit is well equipped to in the terms of selecting the right projects at all times, and to find out where the money is being directed towards, and gives us the desired results. Once we raise the funds, we need to make sure the management of the proceeds is highly important, and we need to make sure that accountability is very critical aspect. So we need to find out the systems were in place to track the usage of proceeds. Our core banking system is well equipped with tracking such loans, so it's made our life very easy, and the periodical disclosure are being got from the banking systems are periodical reporting. And we require to disclose the amount invested and the use of unallocated proceeds as well. So the transparency is very important as to how the unallocated funds also being used. In our case, we have enough of loans that can be earmarked for this loan proceeds. So we did not have a problem for this the unallocated fund usages. And moving on to the next slide, a green lending is very good business, and the business proportion is always allows financial institution to have a positive impact to the environment without compromising the business aspect. It's of a paramount of importance that the investments you give good economic return, the financial return as well as the social economic return as well. So most importantly, you need to make sure that that does not compromise the risk factors as well, because you are dealing with public money. I would say the first thing that we need to consider is the commercial viability of projects when you are making loans to certain categories. Unless it gives you any financial return continuously, the project won't be a success. So what we need to focus here is the overall stakeholder return compared to the shareholder return, which has the social and environmental positive impact on top of the financial return. When it comes to the South Asian market, I would say there's an immense part that the agriculture can play in terms of the economies. And also, as I clearly said, the agriculture has immense potential to introduce green initiatives that should be considered when structuring green bonds. And supporting eco-friendly business should be incorporated to the lending policies and mainstream in the banks or the financial institution. And make sure that we support the businesses that are greener, climate friendly, and socially inclusive. Moving on to the next slide, these are few accolades that the bank has obtained recent years. And at the last slide, the market development, how we can develop the green bond market in South Asia. So the financial institution need to focus on more sustainable finance business professions, I would say, and the awareness of the carbon offsetting should be increased country-wise and the corporate-wise, and also there should be institution to give second-party opinion must be established in country-wise, and also the government needs to give tax incentives when raising funds through green bonds, and also they need to actively participate in subscribing in green bonds as well through the state level institutions. And the policies and the law must be enacted to develop a more vibrant market. And at last, the private sector participation should be encouraged to invest in green bonds through fiscal directions. So with that comment, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you for listening me, everyone.
Nishant's screen, and yes, Nishant,
Is my
word over
screen
to you.
visible?
It's
Is my screen
clearly
visible?
visible. Yes.
Great, thanks. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone, wherever you are. Really pleased to be here. And without much ado, the flow of my presentation would be to talk very briefly about GuarantCo, what we do, and then what we are doing as part of our commitment towards promoting and catalyzing investment in green and sustainable financing in the region. GuarantCo was set up in 2006 to act as catalyst for channeling long-term financing in local currency, primarily in emerging markets of Africa, Southeast Asia, South Asia, and the Pacific. We are funded by 7 of the G12 governments, UK, Sweden, Switzerland, Australia, the Netherlands, Canada, and France. We are rated AA- by Fitch, A1 by Moody's internationally. And through our guarantee solutions, which comes in various shapes and forms, and the next slide would talk about that. But to date, we have participated in roughly 55-60 transactions across 22 countries, and our participation has helped create more than 240,000 jobs across these markets and channeled circa $6 billion of investments into these projects. Our mandate is to provide on-demand credit guarantees to infrastructure projects. The size of guarantee is typically from $5 to $50 million, and primarily in local currency equivalent. And as I mentioned, the guarantee comes in various shapes and forms. So it could be either partial credit guarantee or credit guarantee, or other forms of guarantees like extension of the tenor, liquidity extension, liquidity support, or even EPC contractor guarantees. As one of my previous slides, we use blended finance, and as this slide confirms, through our blended finance solution, we have channeled multiple $1 billion of financing across the various markets where we operate in. Our guarantees are applicable both for loan and bond financing. We can do both capital expenditure or capex or refi, but refi primarily to fund new capex, to be clear. And so because of the nature of our guarantee and the rating of GuarantCo to most of the banks, it provides capital relief, thereby helping lower the cost of funding for the borrower, and thereby also extend the tenor. And for bonds, because of our rating, again, it enhances the rating of the bond, thereby enabling institutional investors who would otherwise not come in and invest in that in the bond on its own. This slide basically summarizes our investment policy. Again, please contact the organizers, and we can share the slide with you, and they can share the slide with you later on. But why don't I quickly go to our activities in the region and what we have been doing. So around July, August last year, we conducted with our sister firm, the technical assistance facility. We organized a green capital market for Vietnam, wherein we brought in a number of industry participants from within Vietnam and outside, which included sponsors, investors, like insurance companies, the international and local insurance companies, certifiers, various verifiers, and likewise, and to basically to bring them under one umbrella and conduct this training program to allay some of the concerns that various participants have towards green bonds or green instruments in the region. And what we found out, by the way, the concerns that are there among the participants in Vietnam is kind of similar to concerns that are there in some of the other markets, or most of the other markets where we operate in. We heard Kugnesh talk about things like greenium, or what benefit does the issuer or borrower has in terms of pricing. And we encountered similar problem for Vietnam. And when I talk to issuers or investors in some of the other markets like Philippines, Indonesia, India, it's the same question, right? So what was the strategic concept behind it? It's basically international investors, as we are seeing, are looking to increase their asset allocation to ESG and green instruments, right? But there aren't many sustainable or true green assets out there in the market. And it's all good to talk about green assets or sustainable assets, but at the end of the day, as a lender, as an investor, you would also want the credit story to be supporting that, because all of us are out there talking just about the sustainable side of an investment, but we must not discount the credit side, which is where players like us come into picture. That is, we not only take care of credit, which is our bread and butter, but also through our developmental impact goals, we push towards ESG, implementing various ESG criteria in projects. So for example, the issuers or the sponsors, they have this concern about, if there is a direct pricing benefit, or if the process is going to be very onerous and painful in the longer run. And these are some of the misconceptions which we need to address it for such issuers, and we believe we have managed to address those to an extent, and I'll come to it in a bit, how we have managed to do so. Then coming at the same time, investors are very conscious of greenwashing, right? So for us, the rationale for this capacity building exercise that we conducted was to provide an overview of green financing landscape and introduce various green instruments and sustainable instruments in Vietnam. And more importantly, build capacity with the local financing community. Banks alone, as we all agree, are not going to fund the massive infrastructure financing needs. As we have seen in more matured markets, it's the institutional investors who finance infrastructure on a sustained long-term basis, and which is where we need to bring those institutional investors in as well. And also, share GuarantCo's experience of guaranteed green bond transactions in the region, and how those have enabled mobilization of financing into various infrastructure projects. Now, key takeaways for us was, basically we kept it targeted. We didn't try to address all the problems in a day, of course, but address specific capacity and knowledge gaps, given that green instruments are still new to the market. And this is something we need to understand. We cannot impose everything. Rome wasn't built in a day. We cannot impose everything on one go. The change has to be gradual. So that is what we learned, and we are trying to push in the various markets that we are working on. Learning by example. So GuarantCo, Sustainalytics, and Moody's used our case studies from the past transactions in bringing the topic to various topics to the audience. Leverage local partners and adapt to cultural context, right? So again, very important. We need to leverage the relationship with our local partners or the local players, and we need to adapt those the process that we want to implement from international standards into the local context, which would make it easier and acceptable and practical for local players to adapt to. Now, I'll quickly walk through some of the case studies. This was a green bond transaction that we did in Kenya a few years ago. First certified green transaction in green buildings, catering to student housing in Kenya, all in local currency with a 50% guarantee from GuarantCo. The bond received a rating which was higher than Kenya sovereign, and the bond was ultimately placed with the institutional investors in Africa. This slide talks about the various participants whom we and various players whom we engaged with, and what it ultimately ended up achieving. Now, this is another transaction that we wanted to talk about. I want to bring out here is the first offshore 7-year green bond in Indian rupee and first offshore 10-year green bond in Philippine peso for a renewable energy company in Singapore. And again, this was the first local currency green bond under ASEAN green bond principles and green bond standards. So I'll stop sharing my screen now. 1 second. So now in terms of what we are doing now, how we are building upon it is we are actually in final stages of achieving financial close for first local currency green bond in Vietnam of circa $75 million equivalent in Vietnamese dong, which has received overwhelming interest from institutional investors in the region. The bond was also, or actually the transaction was also touched upon by the UK PM at COP26 last year. We are also working on another blue bond transaction or water transaction in Vietnam, which would be the first certified blue bond in the country. And besides this, there are other transactions again on blue/green side that we are working on in the region. Most importantly, that I want to talk about is in India, where with one of the largest commercial bank in the country, we are helping implement a $300 million EV or electric vehicle ecosystem financing in India. Yeah, that is it. I know time is on short supply, so I pass it on back to the organizers. Thank you.
Raphaël, please feel free to start your presentation.
Yes, thank you, Borja. I hope the presentation is now there.
Yes.
Perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. And thank you to AFIFORUM for giving me the opportunity to share a bit on Proparco's experience on the green and on the blue bond journey. I'm Raphaël de GUERRE, so I'm the regional head for Southeast Asia and North Asia. Actually, Proparco has two regional offices in Asia, one which is based in Delhi, covering South Asia, and the Bangkok one, which is covering the Southeast Asian part and the North Asia as well. I'll be sharing a few slides with you, only 5 slides. For those who don't know yet, Proparco, we are part of the AFD group, the French Agency for Development. In 2021, last year, we've been approving around 2.3 billion euros of funding worldwide, out of which 9.1 billion actually have been signed. Yes, and we are financing a number of projects in to support sustainable development goals as a whole, but with a strong focus on the climate agenda and the SME financing as well, which is obviously a top priority for us in this specific region. I'm directly jumping into the topic, and to start, I just would like to share with you a few market trends. And I will not spend too much time because I think that Kuganesh has been sharing already the right slide, which is a CBI, a Climate Bond Initiative graph on the bottom right here, which is really highlighting the green bond issuance trajectory in terms of volume. So this graph is in trillion USD, and you see that definitely it provides very interesting and high potentialities in terms of volume of issuance and subscription. On the left side, you have also an interesting graph which is coming from Moody's, which is a bit providing a breakdown into the green, social, and sustainability bonds instruments with the 2016 onwards breakdown here, and you see the progressive introduction of the social and sustainability bonds components into this overall trajectory, and the blue bonds are not yet earmarked into those graphs. I think it definitely reflects the fact that it's a new type of assets, of instruments into the capital market environment. So here I'd like to follow up with the map, which is presenting a few transactions done by Proparco on the green bond issuance side. So actually, Proparco has been both active on the issuance and on the subscription sides. And here you have the subscriptions transactions. A few of them are directly targeting private commercial banks. You have the BCP Morocco transaction, for which Proparco has subscribed a 35 million US green bond recently, and also in Ecuador, Banco Pichincha, for which 50 million USD subscription has also been done. We are also working closely with a number of asset managers, including Amundi, with which we've been working on the subscription on Ego. It was also 2 years ago, and the more recent one with HSBC Real Economy, the Regio Fund, for which we had the 50 million subscription there. And those vehicles have actually quite a diversified portfolio, including some exposures in a number of Asian countries. This slide is not capturing actually all the green credit lines done by Proparco for the financial sector, which is also definitely a strong part of our activities for the financial sector. So allocated credit lines to green projects, and it's not also capturing the green guarantees, especially provided to SMEs, which is also part of what we do for the financial sector. In Asia, so I think we're working hard at the moment also to build the portfolio there, and we are in the process of moving on with one green bond and also a blue bond, which is the more advanced transactions we have on the bond side with the private commercial Chinese bank, and we shall be subscribing these bonds in the Q2 this year. On the issuance side, I just want to mention briefly that AFD and Proparco, so AFD or Modern Institution, has been very active on the bond issuance side, especially on SDG benchmark bonds. We've been issuing, for instance, the last one was in June 2021 last year, a 1.5 billion euros bond, which is a 7-year maturity, which actually has been subscribed by a number of Asian investors. I think 17% of the subscription was done by Asian investors. So we realized that even if we felt that there is definitely an increasing demand on the market for green bond and sustainable bonds, that a number of financial institutions were not necessarily fully ready to go to market and to fundraise these specific resources to be allocated to green projects, for instance. So end of last year, we designed a specific technical assistance facility, which is described and presented here. And the purpose of this facility is really to support the bond issuers in their ability to frame correctly and to go to market to launch these kind of instruments. So this facility is able to provide a number of supports in three areas of activities that are listed here. We can provide support first on awareness raising and capacity building program for the financial institutions and also for corporates, helping the top management or the financial and treasury teams to build their understanding on those new instruments. We can also provide some support on the screening and portfolio review to help the FI understands where they stand in terms of exposure on the green or blue agenda, and to really position themselves in this market. The third point relates to issuing recommendations for the development of green, blue, social sustainability bond framework. So really going into the concrete aspects of how we design this framework, we set up the eligibility criteria, the subsectors, allocations, and so on. And the fourth one, which is the latest stage, I would say, a more advanced one, which is the drafting of a consistent green or social bond or sustainability bond framework. And we've been actually contracting with 3 high-level service providers and consultants. You have there the name of the consultants. The Climate Bond Initiative is one of them, but we've been also contracting with the Deloitte and iCare Consult and the Carbon Trust and Lions Heads to really be able to provide a customized technical assistance to the financial institutions in this direction. And we believe that it could definitely help a few of them to enter into the capital markets with the green or sustainability bond issuances. When coming back a bit on the use of proceeds, I think what's interesting, you have here two graphs, one which shows the 2021 use of proceeds on the sustainability bonds agenda, and the other one is dated 2019. And you see that progressively a number of subsectors related to the blue economy are now included into those issuance and subscription. You see that the water sector and the waste management sector is progressively increasing. I have underlined in blue a number of subsectors that are definitely already captured in the portfolio of those subscriptions. But I think now we are entering in a momentum where a number of issuers and subscribers consider that it could make sense to really target specifically the blue assets with the dedicated instruments. And this is the last slide of my presentation. I think on the left side, the idea is really to try to capture a bit what could be covered by blue bonds in terms of subsectors. And I think the key message here is that probably the blue bond is not necessarily just for fisheries and shipping companies. It could cover a number of very diversified sectors. And as for Proparco, I think we believe that probably the blue bond now is at a level of development that was equivalent to the green bond 10 years ago. And we've seen that 10 years ago for green bonds, the DFIs were very instrumental and important in building the credibility around this green bond concept. And we believe that there is probably definitely the same role to play for DFIs, for the blue bond, to build the market and to attract institutional investors. So again, we are working to subscribe on a blue bond second quarter this year with the Chinese bank, and the use of proceeds will be dedicated to the maritime economy. You see that here you have a number of subsectors that could be included and actually private stakeholders behind the blue bond subscriptions. It could be companies in or by the water, covering, for instance, for instance, ports, shipping companies, fisheries or aquaculture companies, but also offshore renewable energy projects, for instance. And you have also a number of projects that are more probably land-based companies, and it could also include manufacturing, agribusinesses, water treatment, distribution, sanitation as well, and a number of consumer goods as well. Waste management and sustainable industries, I think, is also a point of application. So banks that are issuing a blue bond will specifically commit to invest the proceeds in business solutions that are providing that are allocated to oceanic health, freshwater, or improve access to water and sanitation. I think you have on the right a bit. I've tried here to share a bit what could be Proparco's approach when it comes to blue bond. I think we're trying to take experiences from previous blue bond transactions, and here you probably have in mind the 2018 Seychelles blue bond, which was a $15 million US 10 years bond done in 4 years ago, and actually it was the first blue bond market as such in the capital market history. Then there is the Nordic Investment Bank in 2019, which has issued a 200 million USD bond, which was targeting the protection and rehabilitation of the Baltic Sea. And more recently, in 2021, you have Bank of China, the Paris and Macau branches that have issued almost a 1 billion USD bond, which was a medium-term bond, 2-year blue bond. So I think we're also definitely working in close cooperation with the ADB and IFC that have issued a number of recommendations regarding the blue bond frameworks, and this is definitely a great source of inspiration for us as well. So I think for us, and we see also a number of insurance companies going into the blue agenda. Then I think for Proparco, the point of attention is really to make sure that there is a transparency and alignment of practices, both on the issuers and subscriber sides. to stabilize also a bit the blue bond framework and disseminate the taxonomy into the industry. And here I think what we try to do is to build upon the green and climate bond referentials. I like to share that there is definitely the ICMA, the International Capital Market Association, which has issued green bond principles and sustainable blue economy finance principles. So I think those are key reference documents for us. Another key reference document I think we've been using on our side is the UN Environment Program Finance Initiative. So you have on Google, you can find very easily a document which is entitled How to Finance a Sustainable Oceans Recovery. This is a practical guide for financial institutions. It has been issued last year, 2021, is accessible on the internet, and it provides very concrete recommendations when it comes to financing the seafood sector, the ports, the maritime transportations, and the coastal and marine tourism as well for financial institutions. You have a full also Excel database which is highlighting what could be the recommendations as a potential lender to those sectors. And I think for us, it's about avoiding creating a kind of downgraded green bond new asset class. I think we don't want also to have a blue bond that would just be welcoming unqualified or failed green assets, I would say. So that's also, I think, an important point of attention with the second party opinion certification. And I think the point is really to build a common understanding on the eligible subsectors, as I've listed earlier, and to determine also the level of contribution to the climate agenda. I think we assume the fact that probably a blue bond subscription is not necessarily 100% climate certified or classified, but at least we'll be looking for impact also on the climate agenda as well. And I think this is also an interesting topic. We see that, for instance, on the water sector, the water treatment is definitely generating a number of positive co-climate benefits, but not necessarily the water distribution. So I think it's been also a kind of work in progress on our side to understand how those blue bond framework could potentially serve and address the climate agenda as well, with a number of internal debates and very interesting discussions. The two last points relates to the also to the questions of impact measurements, and I think the previous speakers already highlighted the importance of having baseline impact indicators, and yeah, I think this is also a key point of attention for us when entering into this kind of transaction. So I'll just stop here because I think the time is running, and I'm happy to take any questions if there is some. Thank you.
Thank you, Raphaël, for your insightful presentation. We are quite tight on time, so technically we're out of time. But I would like to ask, let's call it a speed round of questions to each of you. So I have one question that I'd like to ask each of you, starting with Kuganesh. Kuganesh, a lot of the people who are listening in to today's session are, let's say, your peers. They're other financial institutions from across Africa, or sorry, Asia, of course, many of which have shown an interest, either very active or initial interest, to issue a green bond, or maybe a blue one even, Raphaël, as we talk about these. But Kuganesh, what would, very quickly, like, do you have any sort of best practices, advice for them as they go into this journey?
Yeah, Boja, good question, and I would break down this question into two. Like, one is on the borrowing side and on the investing side. So the first thing I would say, Boja, you put your house in order, so that you can find out you have the green assets in place, and you have systems in place that you can track down or identify what are the green assets that you can earmark for the green proceeds. That will make your life easy. That's the first thing. And you need to identify what are the green assets that is commercially viable. So that's the second thing. Like if you are making loans that are in the borrower is looking for like a grant, then it won't be a success because you're dealing with public money, and the investors also look for a commercial return. So that being said, that in terms of the investing part, the investors part, what you need to do is, if you have the proper rating, that it will make your life easy to issue the bond. Otherwise, like Nishant said, you need to get some support from other institutions like GuarantCo in other countries. And also you need to get a second party opinion. That is a must and compulsory. That will make the investors life easy, that the proceeds are going to concrete eligible green projects, and it's not for greenwashing. So being said those things, then if you are in line with, it will make your life easy to go for it and issue a green bond.
Thanks for sharing, Kuganesh, and I'm sure, well, I hope that you're okay with me also encouraging people on the platform to reach out to you if they are interested in issuing a bond, and maybe speaking to you and sharing some experiences, and you can advise them. So thanks, Kuganesh. My next question, and again, being very mindful of time, so sorry to speed through these. I would have loved to have a bit more time, but it's fine. Nishant, this is a question that we get asked all the time, and maybe a difficult one to answer in such a forum, especially considering, but basically, you know, let's say, you know, a lender or issuer wants to engage with you on a guarantee. Can you give us a sort of idea of what the costs are of a guarantee for a green bond?
Look, I mean, the cost for first of all, the guarantee fee is paid by the either on a green bond or a non-green bond or a normal infrastructure loan. It is paid by the borrower, not by the beneficiary. Yeah. So that needs to be clear. And the guarantee fee for a green instrument or a blue instrument is in no way different than what we would charge for a normal infrastructure loan or a normal infrastructure bond. Yeah. So there is no additional cost or significant additional cost for the borrower to do something like this. Now, yeah, I mean, one may say there is a cost for certification and all those, and which we touched upon in my presentation, and also I'm happy to share more details and engage with those all those who want to know details. But you know, there's something called technical assistance grant, which we can tap into again on a case-by-case basis to help fund that initial cost. Right now, those costs, by the way, are not like prohibitive. It's about compliance. It's not about, you know, it's about your willingness to comply. And not to just take the money and deploy it anywhere. You see, so that is it. So you know, so in terms of additional cost for compliance, it's not significant. It's the initial cost, which again we can look into supporting how you know we can do so. You know, either directly or indirectly, right? So that is fine. So in short, no additional cost for doing a green or a blue instrument. Does that answer your question then?
So it's a no-brainer then, Nishant, right?
It should be a no-brainer, right? But you know, it's not always that easy. It's not always that easy, right?
No, again,
but yeah,
no, excellent. And also on this technical assistance grant that you mentioned that is maybe available. Again, you know, if you're interested on well, in all of these instruments, again, I highly encourage you to connect with Nishant on this platform. And then a last quick fire question to Raphaël. One of the things that I think would be probably quite interesting for a lot of people to know more about is you mentioned the technical assistance facility that Proparco has available for the development sort of green bonds. Who's that sort of available to, and what type of support can you provide with this technical assistance facility?
Yeah, thank you, Borja. I think I will answer with the fire answer as well. There was a slide a bit capturing what kind of technical assistance activities we can provide. I think it's just all the upstream work which is necessary for an FI to really understand what is a green or sustainable bond or blue bond issuance. And actually it's quite customized because the idea is not necessarily to provide the full range of TA support, but maybe just to adapt on where the FI stands, and then provides a kind of program which usually either focusing on stage 1, 2, 3, or 4 as described earlier. Stage 4 being the drafting of the bond issuance framework, which is really the final document which is potentially provided to the potential subscribers. So I think we try to make it as flexible and customized as possible, also to address the situations of the FIs that are pretty different from one country to another.
And just to be clear, then, is it open to is it only open to existing Proparco clients, or is it also open to prospective clients? Like, if someone's interested, can they contact you?
I think it's open. So happy to discuss that with existing clients and also new clients. The point for us is really to make sure that there is also on the governance side an uptake and a commitment really to engage in this direction, which is how can I say, a high level appropriation. And so obviously I think we'll be happy if it generates a concrete bond issuances, but we are happy also to explore those new instruments in market environments that are not necessarily fully settled yet. And I think, it's been discussed earlier with the Vietnamese market and so on, but we see that it could change from one country to another, especially in Southeast Asia at the moment, in terms of level of and readiness of the legal frameworks there in terms of bond issuances.
Excellent. No, thank you all. And I will have to cut it there because technically we've gone over time. But I think there was a lot of really interesting content presented. And again, I think I highly encourage people to engage further with Raphaël, Kuganesh, and Nishant if they have further questions or want to see how they can work together to issue new bonds and sort of build on this common knowledge. I think as we grow and maybe there's less experience in the blue bond area, but I think that sort of has been discussed a bit. There's a lot to learn from the few that have been issued, and I think that there's a lot of experience from the green bond instruments that you've each described. So yeah, thank you very much to all of you for